everybody. Welcome to another episode of Defense of the Patience. We're a gaming podcast with a Dota 2 problem. I am your host, Cyphus. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Roland.
Hello, everybody.
And today, a guest we announced on stream. We're very excited to have him, the interviewer extraordinaire. You know him, or we know him as Chen right now, but you all know him better as Hotbid. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hi. I'm excited to be here. I listened to your podcast several times.
Well, thank you.
Whoa.
We appreciate it.
I've listened to your interviews several times.
Yeah. Let's see. What was the first time I think I ever saw PPD was probably in a Hotbid interview.
Yeah.
Or actually saw what he looked like.
This is probably around TI4 times, like when we first started
Yeah, I think
playing.
that you showed me. Yeah.
And I was like, and you got into the Mad Genius, and people call you this, and your drafting styles and whatnot. So, yeah, I love your casual interviews. Thank you for bringing that to the scene.
You're welcome. It's really fun for me, too, and I got to go to TI, so that's the big plus.
Yeah.
Indeed.
You were saying on the show that it was back in, right before we started the show, you were saying it was right about TI3 that you got involved with the Dota 2 scene?
Yeah, I mean, I watched TI2 from home, and I thought that was really, really sick. I remember Navi's run. I didn't really know much about Dota other than that. TI3 was the first one I went to, and I did interviews at the time for Team Liquid. And I interviewed a whole bunch of people, kind of unofficially. I pulled them aside and just interviewed them in a dark hallway with one camera and no real sound equipment or anything, just two chairs on a camera, and that's it.
I think one of the interesting elements about you is that you've kind of transitioned from eSports scene to eSports scene. You know, in it seems like in eSports you usually have people that develop careers centered around a particular game. What is it like, and do you enjoy transitioning from other games, permeating across multiple scenes?
Well, usually I have kind of one main game that I'm focusing on is just what you're interested in. It's not so much a career decision as much of a kind of what you play. And I played StarCraft Brood War a lot, and then StarCraft 2, and then eventually Dota 2. And I was learning Dota I actually started learning Dota mostly because Team Liquid at the time was going to make another forum website, and they made Liquid Dota. And I needed to learn Dota to understand the game and be able to kind of manage that website and the employees, the writers and the Liquipedia people, all that kind of stuff. So that's how I got into Dota. And then eventually the game sucked me in, and I started playing it way more than StarCraft. And that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I love. There was a thread on Reddit that was I finally reached 7K, and you click on it, 7,000 hours played, and it's that's me.
Yeah,
it's I will never be a lofty. We get a lot of shit. To go back to other people where they're we're under 4K, we're under 3K, we're under 2.5K. We are 2K players here.
You guys are 2K players. Huh.
We are 2K players.
It's because of your teammates, though, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and
absolutely.
the trench. I mean,
100%. It's all
stuck
teammates.
in the trench. I understand that,
Cyphus has been quoted on the show saying it is 66% other people's fault why his MMR is the way it is, and 33% his fault. So,
but I stand by that.
33. That's taking a lot of responsibility because there's 5 people, right?
It's more than 20%.
You're only 20% responsible.
Yeah.
Well, and if you want to compare it to the 10%, really, because there are 10 people in the game.
It's basic. It's basic math. So.
It is basic math. But I still gave him a lot of shit for saying really 66% is the reason why you were 1900.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I
mean, Hotbit just made me feel better about it because if I really compare it to the 10 people in the game, my share should only be 10%
or 20%.
I'm taking on quite a burden.
And then sometimes the game drops you, so that's even more.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And internet going
There's
out.
that hidden 2% that's kind of Valve's fault.
So you could be 6K and you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, YASP estimates your MMR, and I have reached 3,500 before, according to YASP. Yeah. So I mean, I don't really even need to climb. But that's not what we're here.
Okay, so we usually where we used to do a state of affairs where we blatantly and honestly and painfully give our solo and party MMRs. Where are you standing, and are you willing to do it?
My solo is 4.4, and my party is 4 or 4.1. I don't know exactly anymore because I haven't actually played very much the last couple of weeks.
Do you do coaching?
Do I do coaching? Like, do I receive coaching?
Can we pay you to coach us? I mean,
oh hell no!
You're like twice as good.
I am not. I am not good enough at Dota to coach people. Like, trust me, I don't know that much about it. I'm only that solo MMR because I abuse heroes. Like, I'll pick Lich and stuff to get MMR. Like, don't. It's not pretty.
Hey. What, just sacrificing creeps? I mean, that's pretty selfless to gain MMR. Really.
No, like if there's like a 5K guy in your game, you pick like Lich or Earthshaker and you just like camp his lane and then help him snowball. Like that's the best way to get MMR.
Oh.
That's the easiest
in 2K,
way.
There's no such thing as that. You're just like, please just get one last hit throughout
everyone's
this game.
2K, and then you just I mean, I don't know what to do there.
Yeah, no, neither do I. But I still enjoy the game. I try and be nice. That's like kind of the whole thing about .p is like defending your patience. It's not what you do while you wait. It is what you do while you wait. I should know our slogan. Yeah. But yeah, Dota 2 did suck me in. I was huge into StarCraft 2, just like you were. That was my first real exposure to you was in StarCraft 2 and you interviewing some of my favorite players. And it was cool. StarCraft 2, I had a much loftier MMR, I guess, or ranking system. I was a randomer, a diamond randomer, and I felt good about it.
That's pretty good.
I knew how to 10 pool, I knew how to 4-gate, and I knew how to build Marines. So, like, it was
that's all you need,
And I thought, yeah, it is all you need. And then Dota 2 came around, and, I sucked at that, and I thought, here pretty soon I'll be really good at this game like I was at StarCraft. And but the meta kept changing and it sucked. I couldn't abuse a certain strategy for like years at a time, like you could in StarCraft. Anyway.
So let's get a little bit of history about you before we move too far forward. Where did you grow up?
I was born in China and I moved here when I was 4 years old. And my parents were kind of studying at the time in the United States. And, we got citizenship or we got permanent residency because of Tiananmen Square. When that happened in China, they gave like amnesty or some sort of like green cards to all the Chinese people that are living in the United States, like the immigrants. So that's how we got citizenship. And then I grew up in New Jersey, but I spent most of my life living in New York because that's where I went to college and immediately afterwards.
Nice. What did you study in college?
I studied history at NYU, and then afterwards I studied law at Michigan.
Oh, wow. So did you ever take the bar?
Yes, I took the bar in New York City.
And so you could practice law right now?
Well, no, I did pass the bar, but I didn't send in the paperwork.
You just wanted to know that you could pass it, just like a Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah, kind of. I just did it for fun. No, but seriously, like I knew, like I had already registered and was ready to take it when I was transitioning into being Team Liquid COO. So I was like, I should just take this. And I just like at that point, it was pretty much just to see if I was going to pass because I knew I wasn't going to go through with the whole thing. And if you file and like if you register and do all that stuff, you have to take CLE classes every year to maintain it. And I knew I wasn't going to do that, so I was like, I might as well just not do anything else with this.
So you were facing a career that was potentially extremely fruitful, and you thought, no, I want to follow my dreams, as it were. Is that kind of the case here?
I think about it this way. Like, I'm a pretty confident person, and I feel like no matter what I try, if I really work hard, I'm going to be successful at it. So I wasn't super worried about finding a job in esports or anything. I felt like I could do it. It's just I didn't have, debt from law school or undergrad or anything like that. So I was able to do that pretty easily. If I had student loans, then I probably wouldn't be able to do esports, at least as soon as I wanted to. So that was the main decision-making thing. And it's that classic life choice about whether you want to do what you love and pursue that or do something that you may not enjoy as much but is more lucrative. So, I'm always going to be the person that picks the first choice. So,
sure. I saw in interviews because we'd like to do research around here before we have a guest. I saw in interviews that it was shortly before eSports Express. You were leaving Team Liquid, and you were talking about content creation and how yes, you have this nice managerial job where you're making sure that everybody's doing what they need to do, but you said I don't really care. Like I want to do what I want to do, which ties in directly to what you just said, which is content creation. Did you know that it was interviewing that you wanted to do, or was it just funny videos, or did you have like a game plan, or was it just content creation?
Well, that story's a bit long, but like it's funny because right now I don't actually do much content creation. I like do kind of a little bit of project management, but also I do creative production, which is like not direct content creation, but you are influencing like the look and feel of the shows that ESL does. But at the time, I really felt like in terms of the projects that I was doing and the creativity I was able to put out, I would rather work for an organization like ESL or Esports Express than TL at the time. So I mean, that's not to knock Team Liquid at all, but it just felt like my job there wasn't fulfilling what I wanted, even though it was great. Like I still enjoy it obviously way more than like a law job.
Yeah. So, speaking of that law job, what were your parents like whenever you decided you were going to not be a lawyer and instead pursue a career in esports? Was that something that freaked them out, or was it, or were they incredibly supportive?
Well, I mean, I had this like presentation made and everything. I was just like ready to tell them that I wasn't going to be a lawyer and I was going to do esports for a living. And I had like this PowerPoint presentation. I was just like seriously prepared and like ready to go to tell them. And I think I was like 24 or 25. I don't know exactly the age, but so I sat them down. I'm like telling them, and they're just like, okay. Like it was like very kind of like anticlimactic because I really thought that we were going to make a big deal about it, but they didn't. So my parents are pretty cool. They're just like, do what you want to do, man. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast, and this is what I want to do for a living. They're like, okay, all right. Well, you just let us know how that goes.
They have a lot of faith in me, so like I don't really ask them for a lot of stuff. So they do support me whenever I need it, but I haven't had to like live there or like ask them for rent or anything like that. So they just kind of assume that I'm doing okay.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, no, I haven't either. But still my parents don't believe. That's okay though.
My grandmother calls it a pod block.
What can they complain about really if you're not bugging them, right?
No. And
I mean,
you're not like, hey, guess
you're not like in jail.
I bugged him.
You're not a druggie. You're not in jail. It's like you're fine.
You're making a lot of assumptions here.
Are you recording this from like the penitentiary right now?
Yeah. Wait, he's on a release program.
I am on a release program. This is I convinced them that this podcast was a job. My PO.
In fact, we need to hurry this interview up because the PO is going to be here in about 25 minutes.
You only get like an hour of outdoor time or something, and now you're like using it up for the podcast.
I choose to be indoors for my outdoor time. Yeah, I chose to be indoors this time. But no, yeah, my parents, they are definitely a generation that, I mean, any previous generation doesn't really understand. Like for instance, I watched a lot of streams back when they first started. It was Justin TV for StarCraft 2, and I was still living with them during the start of this. They're like, "What in the hell are you watching, and why is it so loud? Like, why is there just this guy screaming into the microphone, Banelings are blowing up everywhere?" And it's like, you wouldn't understand. And they're like, no, you're absolutely right. I don't understand. Like, why don't you, focus on school? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And it's like, because I enjoy sitting here in my underwear and watching somebody yell about Banelings blowing up Marines. That's why. Okay. Like, do I need to explain it? And more recently, we started a GoFundMe campaign, and I called them and I was like, hey, we played video games for 12 hours and we raised $1,000 to send somebody to school. And they're like, well, how'd you do that? And it was like, literally, just like what I told you. Like, we just kind of streamed it and people donated. They're like, so what's the catch? It's like, there's really no catch. They just liked the stream. And it was like, okay, well, yeah. How's school going? It's like, It's going fine. Fuck off, basically. It's like we're raising money to send somebody to school. So I definitely am envious there because it's definitely, yeah. Family on Cyphus' side, it's called the pod blog, is what we do. On my side, it's like, yeah, no, he's really successful at school. It's like, oh, what does he like to do? It's like, we don't really talk about what he likes to do.
Are you guys still in school, or are you guys, do you have like another job?
I graduated and work full-time with an engineering firm. That's my day gig.
This is my job. This is what I do for a living, is this podcast. I am currently still in school. I have done...
He's been in school longer than, like, 4 people.
Are you a career student? Is that what you are? I know those types...
I didn't want to be. So initially it started out that... So I was in a band, and that's kind of, I don't know where all this equipment came from to do this podcast, is because this studio was initially a studio to record bands in. And, I wanted to be the famous musician and, the self-entitled famous musician that would be famous because what I said was enlightening, while using like a bunch of euphemisms and whatnot, and talked about drugs, sex, and rock and roll, basically. And so I went to school and I was like, I'm going to learn music theory.
Oh, and God.
Went in and this is, granted, I'm 17 years old and I'm going to learn music theory. This is how long I've been in school. I'm now 25. So 8 years, still no undergraduate degree.
8 years and 200 credit hours.
200 credit hours, 8 years. And
why? I mean, like music theory, you could just get a job at the local music factory.
I could at the local music factory. I realized a year into that.
A steady wage. Just go start, cranking them out
making
on
all those notes.
Assembly line.
I wanted to be able to write music, I guess. I wanted to be able to like, wow, there's like those 5 lines. There's like some things that go down and some things that go up and some things that are connected. That looks cool.
Well, I mean, like it's not like I didn't have doubts when I was starting eSports. I didn't know that it was going to be like super stable or going to grow as much as it did. So, I mean, we are kind of lucky to be on the like frontier of this industry. Yeah, because
absolutely.
Kind of speaking to that, we've been talking a lot on the show recently, and I guess just to lay it out there bluntly, like a lot of it started with the Shanghai Major, but like this, it seems like there's...
It was before that. It was years before that we were talking about this. But
but I mean, it feels like the Shanghai Major really provided a great example, or like an encapsulation of this like culture shift. It doesn't seem like that esports are heading towards a more professionalism type of an identity, as opposed to relying on or I guess embracing that old school no censorship, no rebellious, almost offensive kind of an identity. I don't know. That's
he's saying basically what he's trying to pose here is. We've talked on the show for a very long time about money is important for esports.
Yeah.
To put it frank, we need more money in esports. The more money we have in esports, the more successful esports is going to be. And with money, sponsors are going to expect you to be professional and if 1 million people are watching, maybe there's a reason that you censor yourself a little bit.
Okay, a better question. Do you feel like esports is losing its identity, I guess, going forward?
If the identity is like being super kind of offensive and hardcore, I don't know if that's something we want to keep. I think people conflate being funny and being edgy and like that kind of entertainment with just cursing a lot, making offensive jokes. I think like those are 2 separate things. Obviously, there are people that do both that kind of, and it's difficult to draw the line. But I do think that every single organization is searching for talent that can do that and do it effectively. There are just not a lot of people that can. Do I think that like the example with Too Good at Shanghai is a really tough one because at times James is amazing at balancing the line between what's acceptable and what's not, but sometimes he crosses the line and that's when he gets into trouble, so it's not always one or the other. It's not like you have James or not. It's you could have him tone it down a little bit, and I think that's probably the best way to go. But there aren't many guys like Too Good in the scene. I wish there were.
And we're not even talking specifically Too Good. We're talking Shanghai production. We're talking the way things were handled. Possibly.
Shanghai Productions, it was a anomaly out of like almost all the other events. Like most of the events, when they have delays, there's problems sometimes, there's audio issues, whatever, but they usually get resolved. Shanghai just like never got resolved the entire time. So, and then compounding the whole like firing situation on top of that. So I don't really think Shanghai is a very good example of anything. It's just like a really big outlier. Even like the last Chinese event, like, you know, DAC, the really big one, like that went kind of okay. I mean, there were problems, but it wasn't nearly as bad. So
yeah, it was more watchable at the very least.
Yeah, so I mean, like I think Shanghai is not really indicative of anything.
Well, and I think the Too Good incident probably is the most, or really the biggest example coming out of Shanghai. When I reference that, I try to not like harp on Too Good because it feels kind of tired to do. But
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I guess I just don't feel like, you know, I feel like we can move forward in kind of a professional capacity and still have a place for bathtub interviews. You know what I mean? Like I don't think those necessarily are. I don't know. I think they're a great example of what you're talking about. Like you can be edgy, you can be goofy and do some fun things, and not necessarily, you know.
I would just say that it's a talent issue, not a scene issue. I think like it's just difficult to find people that are able to be fast on their feet and be able to handle all that kind of stuff without crossing the line. I think OD Pixel, for example, does a good job of that when he casts, when he's on panels. Slacks also, and you know, you need guys like that, and it doesn't have to necessarily be completely PC. And I think there are organizations and shows that do that, but we need more of those.
Absolutely. So yeah, so we've had many a discussion with many people who see it like if we start wearing suits and ties and that type of thing, we're going to lose our, you know, our where we came from.
Or
we're going to lose our roots.
What made esports great?
Yeah, what made esports great, but you know, most sports were created in a gym just randomly, and then they realized, okay, in order for this to grow, we have to get sponsors, we have to do things a certain way, we have to have a rule set, we have to.
I mean, I don't think that. I think like people look at the broadcast and like suits and ties. Oh man, they're just being professional for the sponsors. But I don't think that's it. When the audience watches a broadcast and you have 4 people on a panel, the easiest way to get I think it affects the viewer and makes the value of the show just like to everyone that's watching go up also. And most people don't really recognize that. They don't see like, oh, everyone's wearing a suit versus everyone's wearing a t-shirt. I wouldn't care if they're just wearing t-shirts or like flip-flops or, you know, whatever, no makeup on the set. Like I wouldn't care. That doesn't affect me. That just affects the sponsors. But I don't think people even know the effect stuff like that has. Like they don't know half the production things that go on that increase the value of the show. That it's like not one thing you can point out, but at the end of the show, you're like, wow, that show was good. You know what I mean? Like they don't see a lot of the things that maybe raise the value of the production, but all those things put together do make a better production.
Absolutely. Most of the things that if you notice it, it's a bad thing. Like for instance,
exactly.
Like we have a sound engineer right now overwatching the show, and it's if he does a bad job, that's because people noticed that he did anything at all. If he does a good job, there's really nobody even notices. They
or Pimp Munkle when we had him on talking about, you know, camera work. Like if you're noticing the camera control when you're watching a map, that's probably bad. That you know, it means
exactly.
You're jarring.
So
yeah, that's well put indeed. So what I don't know, what do you see going forward with esports? What do you think? What do you think the landscape looks like here in a few years?
I think it's just going to get more and more competitive as these bigger companies come in with more money and like more resources. Right now, you know, it's pretty cutthroat as it is in terms of people competing for casting slots, players competing for prize money. Even in Dota, which has the largest prize pools and pays quite well for talent and for players. Even in Dota, it's very competitive, and it's only going to get more competitive. Because every time an industry grows, you have more and more people grinding to get those jobs. So it's difficult, man. That's what's going to happen, and everything's going to move up in quality, in prize money, and everything, just because there's just more people trying. And you know, like sometimes organizations have to make difficult decisions about who to hire, you know, how to do these kind of things, and you know, unfortunately, since I'm friends with a lot of these people, these decisions do come back to me, you know, sometimes. So it's not the easiest thing to do, but that's where it's going.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing this. I don't know, esports kind of grow. Do you think it will be? I don't know. Do you think there will be a larger landscape of games within esports, or do you think it will inevitably like consolidate down to a few games?
I'm not sure about that. Right now, there's a lot of horizontal esports growth. Like, there's a lot of games that get a decent number of viewers, and I don't think there's going to be like one big gigantic esport that everyone follows anymore. That's I don't think those days are here because just every single publisher is putting out an esports system for their games. There's there's a World of Tanks, esports world championship. There's Mortal Kombat. There's Smash. There's CS:GO. There's just so many different games outside of even Dota, League, and StarCraft that I don't think you're going to see a reduction in the number of titles. There's going to be more and more.
On the flip side, for the talent, for folks like yourself, do you think there will inevitably need to be more people like you that are capable of kind of branching out to multiple games?
Well,
or do you think we'll see people specialize?
Well, first, I don't really consider myself talented anymore. I'm not really doing interviews that much anymore. I haven't done many since TI5. I mostly do behind the scenes kind of like production work, project management stuff for ESL, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, I miss interviews a little bit. And obviously, if people ask me to do interviews, maybe I'll consider it. But I'm not going to go out seeking, contract interview jobs anymore. And that's because like at some point you need to transition into something. And I don't think like interviewer is really a job that you're going to be holding for 10 years. Do you know what I mean? Like it's, I feel like if you're not moving in the industry to something better or more, like you're improving yourself, then you're already just kind of behind because everyone is kind of moving their own way. For example, BTS now does summits for other games, right? So I feel like if you have a plan for yourself for more than just a couple years, I didn't see myself being an interviewer in 5 years. So I said, let's get a head start on, being someone that is behind the scenes doing something that's more, I don't want to sound condescending and say more important than just interviewing people, but that's how I felt. Like I wasn't going to be interviewing players when I'm like 40 years old, So.
Yeah.
Sure. No, and it's great that, that needs to happen. Just like in a corporate environment, people need to move up so other people can fill those positions. Leaving the quote unquote interviewing scene allows other people who have been on this grind because it's getting more competitive, like you said, to take your spot and do it for a few years because maybe they don't want to see themselves as interviewers forever.
Yeah, unless you're like Craig Sager or something and you're doing at the very, very top and you're consistent and like happy with it. I don't think interviewing in esports is something that's a super long-term thing as your main job. I don't see that as something for me, at least.
But it's a good way to get yourself to those other jobs, to get yourself to be working behind the scenes at ESL.
And like if there's a few interview opportunities that I can do some at Manila or whatever at ESL events, then I'm going to take that. I can do it. It's just not going to be my main thing.
Sure, and that's completely respectable. I mean, we can't have people keeping their same jobs forever, or else it's just going to be the same talent forever. Which I certainly appreciate that mindset. Is that we started a podcast and we knew that we needed to eventually get a Twitch and start getting a Twitch following.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we can't just stay a Dota 2 podcast forever. We've also honestly thought we need to, if there is a next game, we're going to have to, go to the next game. We realize that.
I mean, thank you for attributing an altruistic motive behind me moving from the interview position, but it was not to help other people. It was purely self-interest. But thank you for that.
Hey, that's what we're here for. A positive spin.
But that self-interest, will help other people.
Yeah, it's just inevitable. It's inevitable that you have to expand. That you have to to take on other tasks and projects if you want to continue to be in this industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least that seems to be the nature of it. So, what are you currently doing? Like, to get into that with a little bit more detail.
I'm working on something called the eSports Hall of Fame, and I'm also working on ESL 1 projects like Manila and Frankfurt. And hopefully, if ESL gets the next European major, I'll be working on that also. I am not involved in TI at the moment. If Valve asks me to do interviews there, I'll probably strongly consider it, but I'm not sure if they will because I haven't really done many the whole year. So,
sure. So can you get a little more in depth into what you do for ESL and like what it is that you
sure.
are?
I'll focus on Dota
doing?
just because it's probably the easiest. You guys don't want to hear me talk about project management and stuff other stuff that I do, but it's basically let's say there's a show that's executed by the production team. I'm responsible for making sure the show has good overall vision and direction. So if I want to, like, I'll give you some examples. ESL won New York last year. Did you guys watch that?
We went there. We were there as press.
Oh, awesome. Did you? So some of the stuff that you could tangibly see on the show that was influenced by me, the salt portrait at the beginning with PPD. Talent choices, how they're handling the desk, who the hosts are, what topics they're talking about, kind of like the show rundown. Some funny stuff like the little Eternal Envy video, the poll questions that are a little funnier than usual, just little extra flair to the show that shows the community that we kind of understand Dota and that we're doing more than just kind of going through the motions.
And that's something that you absolutely need. I mean, yeah, an organization can come in with a lot of money, but they have to know about the scene.
Exactly,
I mean, money doesn't do it all. Money does help a lot, but
it's also, I was doing some stuff like we did player camera inserts. So like when someone did a good play, you would see their face pop up on the right side in the game. That was something that was a little new that we hadn't done before. Little things that can enhance the show that people that aren't super familiar with Dota wouldn't know.
Sure.
So that's kind of what I would help with ESL ones.
That's awesome. What are you doing with the eSports Hall of Fame? What is that, and what all does that entail?
eSports Hall of Fame is just is a organization that we're gonna induct people from that are voted on by a panel, and it's designed to kind of teach the history of it to people that aren't familiar with it, because there's a lot of fans right now that are just entering esports and they don't really know the history or lore or kind of the backstory. And there is a lot of great stories that haven't been told about these players. And I think eSports Hall of Fame is something that can last for a long time. And really kind of if you think like 5-10 years down the line, you can go to the website and you can kind of check back the history throughout these great games that are clearly going to last for a long time. Because before games, they didn't really last that long. You kind of just play it and then you're done with the game. It's over. The content's consumed, and then you move on. Right? That's the general lifespan of a game, a couple months max. But now, with DLC, with esports, these games last forever. Like some games last like a decade. So Hall of Fame is meant to help preserve that history and help parse it for newer fans.
Have you guys inducted anybody so far?
No, our first inductions for CSGO, or for Counter-Strike, actually, not CSGO. Counter-Strike, and it'll be at ESL 1 Cologne. That's in July.
Any little tidbits you can give away about that, or is some of it
who gets inducted, it'll be the panel that decides, not me. So I'm just there to help execute it.
Well, that's cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And doesn't Yahoo have something to do with this, or was it just an interview that you did?
Yahoo just covered it. They're just a news outlet, so they're not really involved in it. They just broke the story.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's Yahoo that's breaking the story. That's pretty big. And eSports Hall of Fame. How cool will that be? I mean, yeah. I mean, I just found out that I'm going to be a father in December. This has already been brought up. And I'm going to raise that kid to be a gamer. Like, I'm sorry, but like, the kid's going to like video games, damn it. And
this is how esports dies, as the next generation rebels against it.
And then it's like, you're going to be able to play games with your kid. It's going to be great. I mean, it's a way to connect with the younger generation that I don't think current parents have. I feel there's a big gap. Like, my parents have no idea. They don't play video games. They don't really understand esports. They just kind of go, oh, okay, you did a show in Madison Square Garden Theater. That sounds cool. That's a lot of people. That's pretty much it. Like, they don't know anything about Dota.
Yeah.
Like, even try and explain it. They're at the level where you're just explaining that you are controlling something on the screen by selecting it and moving it around. That's pretty much where I would start with explaining. I don't even try. I don't think they even want to know. They just kind of say, okay, he does his video game thing. But you as a parent are going to be able to really, I don't think you're going to be surprised by any video games coming out. So you're going to be able to hang with your kid when he's a teenager and playing.
And I mean, if you look at like even 4 or 5 year olds these days, they know how to work an iPad or an iPhone better than.
It's weird how innate that manipulation of current technology seems to be in really young kids.
It's just really, honestly, a big thanks to all the software developers that are making these user interfaces just that friendly that even a child can interface with them extremely easily. Yeah. So as far as video games go, I'll be able to talk to another parent, say, when my child is my age, that like he's in video games, but he's in this video game and he specializes as a carry role.
But imagine,
like that's going to be cool.
On the flip side, though, imagine your parents had a more fundamental like understanding of video games, and now imagine trying to explain Dota 2 to them. Like,
I had my dad on because he's a computer professional, right? But what he does is like absurdly like. I deal with servers and SQL databases and whatnot, and he doesn't know anything about video games. So having him on talking to him about Dota 2, it's like, well, you're 5 guys versus 5 guys, and they're fighting each other to...
Yeah, it's not an easy game to explain.
Yeah.
No, it's not at all.
Kind of like a tug-of-war type thing. Just imagine a tug-of-war, and you got to kill, all of them and pull them over. And he's like, well, I played Pong, and that was, that was pretty complex. And it's like, okay, we'll stop here.
It'll be it will be interesting to see though what the next 10 years, kind of what games.
Is it going to be VR? Is it not? That's
got to be VR. Like, I don't think it's. I think it's obviously going to be VR, but we'll see.
It could be a big flop though. You never know.
Oh, come on, dude. There's no way it's going to be a flop. Are you kidding me?
Virtual reality just doesn't sound that cool.
We've been waiting too long for VR for it to flop.
It's not even that. It's like it might be bad for the first couple of years because the games haven't caught up, or the software isn't like there, or the hardware isn't there. But eventually, man, we're going to have it, and it's going to be the next thing. Like, I really... the days of the people might think that this mouse and keyboard thing is going to last forever, but eventually you're going to be able to control something with more precision than a mouse and keyboard. And when that happens, that will be the next step, right? Like, if you could control Dota units with your mind, like just exactly what you wanted to do without just thinking, without using your mouse and keyboard, obviously that's better than a mouse and keyboard, right? Because you have limitations.
Still couldn't play Meepo, but yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
So,
and I thought about that in StarCraft a lot, where it was like, I mean, I could compete with the best probably if I could control units with my mind. Like if I could do the micromanagement necessary in StarCraft. Probably not, because
there's going to be some guy who has like a 200 IQ that can process like 500 million things at once.
Oh, I'm talking if they're using mouse and keyboard still. I'm talking if they're using mouse and keyboard, well, I'm able to use my mind.
If you can use your mind and they use my mouse and keyboard, you could be potentially the best player in the world. I mean,
yes, potentially, and that's what I was like.
If only you could cheat.
If only there was a way. And like,
you could win all the tournaments then. No problem.
Yeah, and trust me, those were like some fleeting dreams that I had, of course, in StarCraft.
Or if you just played at 1/4 speed while everyone else was normal speed.
That was another thing that I thought about a lot of, is like, if I could just slow time down, like that's all I need. It's just slow time down. I could absolutely handle everything that was necessary.
Because that, if you could stop time, the best way to use that talent is to play StarCraft.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way.
Yeah, exactly.
With Dota, it's a little bit. I would get probably 3 out of 4 creeps last hits if I get slow time down.
The carries right now are pretty optimized in terms of last hitting. I think it's mostly draft and movement is probably the biggest thing right now in Dota. And the teams it doesn't matter how mechanically skilled you are if your captain can't draft, right? It's like most of it is draft.
Yeah, and that's something that down here at the
2K level,
at the gutter. It's not even the trench. It's the gutter. That's why captain, when they took away all pick for the amount of time, that's why I was like, okay, random draft it is, because I do not trust somebody with drafting my team and drafting me, where it's like, so no, you're absolutely right. Where it's two completely different things, a MOBA and obviously they have different acronyms, a MOBA and an online battle arena, but yeah,
exactly.
VR, I'm skeptical, of course, because it is a new technology.
I think the only reason people are ever skeptical of VR is because it's been attempted kind of in the past, and it's failed because the technology wasn't there.
And hardware really was the big thing.
Primarily hardware. And it doesn't seem, the hardware, I'm with Hotbid. Like, I think the hardware may not be 100% there, but damn, it's pretty close. And I think it's close
in
enough
our
to be
lifetimes,
workable.
we're going to have that kind of not a full holo deck, kind of like crazy Star Wars, Star Trek stuff. But we're going to get some stuff that you're just going to be very surprised at how good it is, I think. Because just think about, we did not think we were going to be here like 5 years ago, right? So
no, I thought StarCraft 2 would last forever. When I first popped that in 2010, I was like, this is the best game. There will be no game that comes anywhere near this game. And then, so
it wasn't the game to end all games.
It was in
I don't think that's possible anymore,
Yeah. We've broached this subject before where I thought, maybe there will be this ultimate end all be all game that everybody plays and competes in, but you bring up a good point in that, even Ark Survival Evolved has tournaments with big money on the line. And that's a game where you're surviving against dinosaurs and you're taming them and you're building things.
It's a weird survival MMO. Like, who would have thought that those kinds of genres would end up clashing and becoming a competitive game?
You're getting it. Even at TwitchCon they had the I want to say like H1N1 or one of those zombie survival games where there was a big tournament there. Like, how long could you survive? And Slacks just sat in a bush forever and made it to like the tournament, like to the playoffs, because he just sat hiding in a bush and while everybody else fought and like worked hard, Slacks is like, I'm just going to stay in this bush and we'll see how things go. And he did and made it really far. But it really is different interests. Like, there's no way I could ever get my wife to play Dota 2 and enjoy it. Like, I enjoy it, but put her on The Sims, put her on Ark Survival Evolved, put her on something like that, and she can play for hours and enjoy it. So I agree with you in the fact that there will be multiple titles sharing that pie that is the money that goes into esports. Mm-hmm. Maybe there will be games that take a bigger slice of the pie. But that's that's determined. It's not yet.
All right, Hotbed. I want to get a little more personal with this interview.
Sure.
So I have a good buddy, good friend of the show who was helping me, find some of your personal interests and things that you were doing, and I stumbled across a blog of Ice and Fire.
Uh-huh.
So you're a huge Game of Thrones fan, then?
I am a huge Game of Thrones fan.
So yeah, a lot of people, but I am too.
Enough to blog about
I'm OG.
You blogged about
it?
I'm
OG Game of Thrones fan.
Like, read the books before it came out?
Yeah, like way before it came out.
Oh,
so
okay. Then that is very OG.
Hipster.
That is very OG. Yeah,
I was super excited about the show, but I'm not like, I enjoy the show for what it is, but they changed too much stuff for me to like truly believe that it's like the best thing ever. You know what I mean? I can't get, like, it's like those Harry Potter fans that are like super into Harry Potter, but they watch the movies and they're just like, oh, I can't believe they took that part out. That's me when I watch the show. But this season, I don't know what's going to happen, so it's going to be great.
Are you following the show?
I go watch it every week.
Okay.
So obviously I'm going to watch it because it's still a really good show.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the very best that I think they could make it, it doesn't mean that it's still not good, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And some of the changes from the books, it feels like they make sense.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Some of them are good, but a lot of them are bad. And honestly, I don't think it's possible to live up to a series when you're making a television show. If like Breaking Bad had a book, everyone would love that more, I think. So, it's an impossible task. So I don't really expect them to hit everything right.
Yeah, and they definitely, those showrunners are definitely doing a good job with what they've been able to. What are your predictions? I gotta know. Jon Snow.
I mean, he's alive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in some way or the other.
We already know.
Like it would be the worst storytelling ever, and I can't imagine that Martin did 5 books of setup just to randomly kill him. So there's no way.
So much has been invested, especially in the books, way more in the books than even in the show. But like in his parental lineage.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think he might not be himself when he gets resurrected, or however they're gonna bring him back. But there's no way that he's just truly dead and gone. I don't believe that.
See,
he's doing interviews he's doing interviews and like refusing to comment. Why would they even be interviewing him? Like, it doesn't even make sense, you know?
And why would he refuse to comment?
I think
like, no, I'm dead. Like
that post HBO release.
They didn't interview Sean Bean for season 2.
Yeah,
so it's just like
Sean Bean's.
It's obvious he's here. He's got some part in it. It's not like he's gonna.
Yeah.
They didn't interview the guy that played Rob when after season 3 or 4 or whenever that happened. So
the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but if you've ever seen anything else that Sean Bean's been in, he usually dies within the first 20 minutes of the.
There's never a reason to interview Sean Bean. You just assume he's dead.
They just hire him to kill him, I guess. Which sucks.
I don't know. My personal prediction for Jon Snow, that's probably trite, but I think he'll probably come back more himself than we realize. But he's going to be alleviated of that dead on the wall because his watch has ended. He's died.
His watch has ended. Will he breathe fire?
When you die.
Will he breathe fire?
Well, I mean, do you guys read the books at all?
I've read every book. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the prologue of the last book is like through the perspective of someone that kind of lives on through. He's like a warg and he can control animals, and he lives on even though his body dies. He lives on like mentally in his wolf.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure that's probably what happens to Jon Snow, and then they resurrect him and he comes back in his body, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, in the trailer, they freeze framed it, and there's a picture of a guy that looks like him in one of the battles.
Yeah, charging in on the horse and that.
Yeah,
like, stark
armor. It's like 100% at this point. So I'm not super worried.
It wasn't 100% when they killed him though, and did that to me. Like how many times they killed people I cared about. So I didn't read the books.
Well, in the books, it's left way more open ended than they tried to make it in the show. I think in the show they were really trying to sell you on Jon's dead, and Martin at the end of the chapter where Jon Snow dies. It's kind of like he's laying there bleeding out, kind of bloody, like, hey, maybe somebody will come in and magically save him right at the last second, as a possibility was kind of left.
I thought like arrows were going to fly over the walls for Ned Stark right before that sword hit him. Like I was
you think Arya's going to save him?
Yeah, you think Arya's going to save him, or like somebody's going to like shoot the executioner in the heart, and then there's going to be an all-out war while people are like flooding away from the.
I think I don't know which one of you mentioned it, but Blog of Ice and Fire. Okay, so I'll tell you about that. Did you read that blog at all?
Yeah, I read the last post that was up there about Sansa and Arya.
So basically that I wrote 2 paragraphs about every chapter in Game of Thrones, and I actually wrote it with having read the entire book from the perspective of someone that had not read the books.
Oh, okay.
So
that's cool.
It's a fake. It's basically a fake blog of someone reading the books for the first time, and him never reading any fantasy and just making funny, snarky comments about fantasy and about Game of Thrones. Because like generally, all the analysis about Game of Thrones is very serious. So if you want to read it, it's Blog of Ice and Fire at blogspot.com. Start from the first post. That's the prologue of like the book 1. And I go through all of book 1 and like part of book 2 before I got tired and stopped. But it's some of my best comedic writing, to be honest. Like it's actually, I was getting like 50 to 100 comments on some of those like posts. And like I was getting like 1,000 hits a day or something on Blogspot, but people just rereading it and like yelling at me like, you're getting it wrong or whatever. And little did they know, like I was faking that I was misunderstanding everything. I'd be like, I thought, Jaime Lannister was the same as Tyrion, like I would say stuff like that, like a newbie, like mistakes that they make.
Well, I'll read you one line about Sansa, which is right after the execution at Joffrey's birthday tournament.
Okay.
She later runs into the Hound, who talks all tough, but seems like he's actually a big softy, because he doesn't do anything to Sansa, even though he's very drunk and knows that she was up to something.
Yeah, I mean, like, my favorite quote is from a Varys chapter. I I wrote like Varys knows who shot Kennedy, and he knows like he knows who when Winds of Winter is coming out, like all this funny stuff, because it's just like when you first get introduced to the character, you're just like, what the heck? This guy just is like a fake character, right? He just clearly just knows everything, and it's kind of poking fun at a lot of the tropes and very serious parts of Game of Thrones that usually don't get analyzed that way.
Yeah, and Varys is definitely one of the biggest tropes in that entire series. The seemingly neutral, always never know what side he's on, but at the same time knows absolutely everything and probably has a plan.
Yeah, I think I wrote. Okay, I have it in front of me. Varys knows that Bran is in a coma and that Catelyn is in King's Landing. Varys knows exactly when she arrived and when she was hiding. Varys knows why she carries a dagger and it's originally belonged to Tyrion. Varys knows what you are thinking before you do. Varys knows you know he knows. He knows you know he knows you know. Varys is on the grassy knoll with Amelia Earhart and Bigfoot watching the final episode of Lost, which explains everything. So that's the kind of analysis that I provide in this blog. So if you want to read it, it's Blog of Ice and Fire at blogspot.com. It doesn't exist anymore. I haven't updated it, but I am very proud of it. So you do your research. You found that. That's crazy.
How many comments would it take to bring it back and to get you rolling on book
I don't
2
have time,
to book
dude.
3?
I don't have time. No more.
No.
Well, shout out to Grouty for helping me locate that.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see that you're a big Game of Thrones fan. I'm a geek. So
I mean,
I can't help it.
it's April. It's the month of Thrones.
Yeah, it's on its way.
It's the month of Thrones.
Coming.
Yeah, I'm like,
sure.
I feel like now Game of Thrones is like super huge, and there's all these like casual fans, and I feel like I have to assert my like knowledge about everything to them because they're just like, oh, like Jon Snow, he's so cool. His hair is awesome, like that's, and I'm like, dude, like I read a 2-page theory about how Roose Bolton's face is actually like a different person's. Like that, that's the stuff that I read.
Whoa, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's a theory that Roose Bolton is actually immortal, and the reason why they flay people at the Dreadfort is he just like takes their faces and he like constantly reapplies it to himself and just lives forever as like some sort of like weird vampire. That's like the stuff that I read because it's been like 10 years since the last book, so I'm running out of things to like theory craft about.
Wow. OG indeed. I was like, everybody knows what Game of Thrones is. Like, what are you talking about? I was there for season 1. Like,
they call it the bolt-on theory. You should look that up.
I will. Yeah, I definitely will.
Oh man. When is it airing? Can we give a plug to Game of Thrones here?
It's end of this month. Or
Is it
1st
end?
of March?
It's the 23rd or 24th, I think. That's Sunday.
23rd. It has to happen in April. That's bullshit.
Yeah. It's like during ESL 1 Manila too. So.
Ooh. You have HBO Go, don't you?
I mean, I will obtain it in an entirely legal way.
If you need
that's what you're asking me.
If you need a password, you've got a Skype
No, man, no.
contact.
I obviously own HBO and will watch it exactly when it comes out on HBO Go.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we're going to eat up from you, Hotbid. We really appreciate you coming on the show today. It was awesome to get to talk to you about all this Game of Thrones, eSports, everything.
Anytime, man. It's fun.
Yeah, do you have anything big coming up that you want to plug that we should make sure we get out before we let you go?
ESL 1 Manila, check that out, and ESL 1 Frankfurt, which is in June. Get your tickets for that if you're in Europe, because that's going to be a very fun experience. We have some fun things planned for that are different than the normal kind of like stadium event. So,
it's good to know that you're working on it.
Yeah,
and that there's a fellow, Dota 2 player fan. Been in the scene for a very long time that's making it fresh for everybody else.
Yeah. We're going to try some new stuff.
And if you guys want to follow Hotbid on Twitter, he is at Hotbid. That's hot_bid on Twitter. Shoot him a follow, find out everything that he's up to and what's going on. Of course, if you guys want to find us, we're defenseofthepatients.com. Follow us on Twitter at @p_show. On iTunes, just search Defense of the Patients, subscribe, and leave us a review. We always appreciate that. And right now we got the GoFundMe campaign going on. We won't take a ton of time, but GoFundMe.com/Travis on Rails. We're trying to help Captain Silverfox learn Ruby. Big
thanks and congratulations to this community. $1,000 in a 12-hour stream is pretty incredible. I'm doing another one this Friday night We are getting damn close. We've already locked his spot. We need 9,000 more, guys, and it can happen. So we're going to make that happen. And yeah, big thank you to everybody who donated.
And help us get that website, because look at defenseofthepatients.com. That website needs to be updated, and Captain Silverfox is the man to do it. So
yeah. It's an expensive website, but it'll be like the best website on the web.
That's right. God damn it. And of course, Facebook, all that other good stuff. You guys know where we are. You know how to find us. So until next time, this is Cyphus for Roland and Hotbid saying good luck, Godspeed.